Lands on the map that separate one state from another in the United States tell a story. Have you ever wondered why these lines are often so straight? The answer lies in the history of the country, how it expanded, and the decisions made along the way. In this journey, we'll uncover why state borders are marked by straight lines, revealing a mix of surveying methods, westward movement, negotiations, geography, efficiency, and historical agreements. As these factors, like pieces of a puzzle, come together to create the unique shapes we see on the map of the United States. Late 1700s, early 1800s, the U.S. is expanding like wildfire, but there's a challenge: how to organize these vast, unexplored territories. Enter the hero of our story, the Public Land Survey System, PLS. Under the Public Land Survey System, they divided the land into a grid of square townships, each a neat 6 miles by 6 miles. Now hold on tight, because these townships were further sliced into sections, usually 1 mile by 1 mile. And here's where the magic happens. Surveyors, armed with their straight lines, created this grid system, turning the landscape into a checkerboard of squares and rectangles. Why straight lines, you ask? Well, it wasn't just for the aesthetics. This method made land distribution a breeze, and it established a standardized system for property ownership. Imagine the Midwest and the Western regions. These surveying techniques were like the architects shaping the layout of states. So, what's the legacy of all these straight lines? The Public Land Survey System left its mark on the visual representation of state borders. When you look at those maps, you're witnessing the organized and structured result of a nation coming together. Next up, expansion and settlement. Picture this: the U.S. is in full-on expansion mode, heading westward for economic opportunities, untapped lands, and the dream of a better life. But with great growth comes great challenges. How do you organize and govern these vast, wild frontiers? Enter the heroes of our story, surveyors and government officials, armed with compasses, facing the colossal task of breaking down these expansive territories into manageable pieces. And here's where the magic happens. Straight lines and rectangular divisions come into play. The goal? Bring order to the chaos of the frontier, making it a breeze for pioneers to understand where their land starts and ends, and helping the government keep everything in check. But hold on, it gets even cooler. As explorers and settlers journeyed even further west, those straight borders weren't just lines on a map. They became symbols of a nation's unstoppable growth and development. It's like the pioneers were playing a giant game of connect the dots, shaping the landscape we see on maps today. The legacy of this expansion is etched in the straight and grid-like patterns of state borders. It's not just about settling down, it's about creating organized territories and states, each with its own unique identity within the big U.S. picture. So, the next time you're marveling at those straight lines on a map, remember, it's not just geography. It's the thrilling story of a nation expanding its horizons, one straight border at a time. Next up, negotiations and agreements. Back in the day, when the U.S. was figuring out its state borders, it wasn't all about compasses and expanding westward. Nope, states and territories sat down for some serious talks. We're talking negotiations influenced by everything from natural features like rivers to where people were already living. Imagine this: officials trying to decide where one state ends and another begins. And here's the kicker. When Mother Nature didn't provide an obvious border, they didn't just throw darts at a map. Oh no, they negotiated and compromised to create those straight-line borders we see today. Diplomacy wasn't just for nations. It was for states too. Treaties like the Webster-Ashburton Treaty and the Oregon Treaty were like the superstar agreements that settled boundary disputes and even drew the northern border with Canada. But here's what's cool. It wasn't just about convenience. It was a diplomatic puzzle. Negotiators had to find solutions that everyone could agree on, avoiding potential conflicts and making sure everyone's happy. So when you look at those straight borders, it's not just lines. It's the result of flexible negotiations and adaptability. These aren't just lines on a map. They're symbols of compromises and agreements that have stood the test of time. We also have to talk about geographical features. Unlike the meticulous planning of surveying or the diplomatic dance of negotiations, geographical features had their say in where state borders were drawn. Think rivers, mountains, and distinctive landmarks that Mother Nature generously provided. Now, rivers were often the unsung heroes, like the mighty Mississippi playing referee between states like Louisiana and Mississippi. And let's not forget about those impressive mountain ranges, the Rockies and the Sierra Nevada, shaping borders with a rugged elegance. Take, for example, the Ohio River wrapping itself around Kentucky's northern border like a protective embrace. It's a prime example of how, when nature offered a clear boundary, straight lines took a back seat. But here's the twist: while using rivers and mountains was practical, it wasn't always an option. Sometimes the absence of clear natural boundaries led to the use of straight lines for precise demarcations. It was like nature's way of saying, I need a break. Let the humans handle this one. The cool thing about natural features as borders is their permanence and visibility. They're like timeless markers, eliminating the need for artificial lines. Yet, when straight borders did come into play, it was often a deliberate human intervention for the sake of clarity and manageability. The dance between nature and human decision-making creates these unique patterns in state borders, showcasing the dynamic relationship between the environment and political boundaries. So, the next time you're exploring a map, remember, those straight lines are a testament to human ingenuity when nature didn't offer a clear signpost. Next up, administrative efficiency. As the United States expanded, the need for well-organized administrative units became crucial. Enter the hero of our tale, the straight border. These lines weren't just there for looks. They were strategic tools in creating efficiently governed regions. Imagine trying to run a government without clear borders. Laws, taxes, and public services would be a logistical nightmare. Straight borders, especially those geometric rectangles, made it a breeze to set up state and local governments, aligning perfectly with surveying systems and land division methods used during the era of westward expansion. During periods of rapid growth, administrative efficiency was the name of the game. Straight borders were the architects of cohesive governmental structures, helping establish institutions, electoral districts, and overall territorial management. But wait, there's more. As transportation and infrastructure developed, those straight borders weren't just lines on a map. They were blueprints for efficient planning. Roads, railways, and other critical projects followed the same geometric patterns, making coordination across state lines a walk in the park. In essence, straight borders weren't just about looking tidy. They were a practical response to the need for administrative order. The geometric precision we see on maps today isn't just a coincidence. It's a deliberate effort to streamline governance and leave an indelible mark on the visual representation of the United States. Last but not least, historical agreements and compromises. First on the list is the Missouri Compromise of 1820. Imagine a time when the U.S. was growing and the question of slavery was a hot topic. To strike a balance, they drew a line across the Louisiana Territory saying no to slavery north of the 36-30 parallel. This wasn't just about new states joining the Union. It also set the stage for straight line borders, especially in the Midwest. Now let's fast forward to the Compromise of 1850, a period after the Mexican-American War. This agreement played a key role in welcoming California as a free state and organizing territories like New Mexico and Utah. The decisions made during this compromise left their mark on state borders in the southwestern part of the country. These weren't just bureaucratic deals. They were pivotal moments that shaped the political landscape of the United States. The resulting straight borders weren't drawn randomly. They were a reflection of the political and social considerations of their time. Think of it as a complex dance of negotiations and trade-offs during the nation's expansion and governance. While these straight borders might not always follow rivers or mountains, they carry the weight of significant moments in U.S. history. They're like echoes of political decisions and compromises that have stood the test of time, leaving an enduring mark on how the nation's spatial organization took shape. You will see other countries with similar straight borders with countries that also has been colonized, including Australia and some African and Middle Eastern countries. The reasoning behind it is often the same. In wrapping up our exploration, we've uncovered why the borders between states in the United States often look so straight. It turns out it's a mix of history, negotiations, and the need for things to be organized. From the early days of surveying and land division to important agreements and compromises. Each straight line on the map tells a tale of growth, decision-making, and practicality. These lines aren't just lines. They're a reflection of how the country came together and how it continues to be a diverse and connected place. The straight borders, in their simplicity, carry the weight of a complex and fascinating journey